squad is on the board. Manning the board.
The number one overall player in the 2023 class put on an absolute show down in Austin over the weekend. It's a shame that no one will be able to play with Arch Manning in the upcoming video game this summer. And to discuss that and other topics from the Texas Longhorns spring game down in Austin, Hank South of Horns 24/7. Hank, first of all, I got to ask you about Arch Manning and what you took away from his performance down in the orange and white game.
Yeah, I think Arch Manning showed why he was the unanimous number one overall player in the 2023 class. To put up those kind of numbers, that's what you expect. A player of that caliber to do in a spring game setting like that. And I wasn't surprised. I think it proves the ranking was dead on with him. I think it helps it helps make that argument. And then I think it shows that, the quarterback development going on in Austin. You have Arch Manning performing the way he did. You have Trey Owens, who, wasn't as highly rated. He was a composite 4-star, but he goes out there and tosses 3 touchdowns as well. For anybody, making the, is there a QB controversy in Austin? There's absolutely not a QB question. This is Quinn Ewers' team. He played 2 series on Saturday. That was the plan going in. It was going to be an Arch Manning, Trey Owens thing all day. That's what it was. Quinn Ewers obviously, threw that pick 6 on his first series. I think if he had stayed in the game and settled in, I think he would have probably put up similar numbers. But Arch Manning, wow, what a performance! I think the QB's position is safe in Austin, for the next couple seasons.
Hank, we lead the discussion on quarterbacks because the Longhorns have a commitment from 4-star KJ Lacy, who also was inside the stadium to take in the spring game, and that kind of brings in a lot of the talk right now, right? It makes for interesting conversation about the direction of that quarterback room. What can you tell us about his visit to campus and other potential suitors and what they might be facing with KJ Lacy?
Yeah, KJ Lacy, longtime Texas committed to the program last June and has been solid ever since, from the state of Alabama. When he committed, he said Sark thought of him as Bryce Young 2.0. And what I can say is Texas absolutely loves this kid. They've had him on campus several times. I think this was his 3rd visit this spring. He was in town for Elite 11 a few weeks back, came back a couple weeks later, and then this past weekend he brought his entire family, his mom, dad, little brother. So it was certainly a big deal for him. And, for him to go out there, see that quarterback performance, see the development that the coaches are talking to him about kind of, unfold in front of his eyes, I think helps a lot, in terms of holding on to him. And I don't think there's really any concern. I think he's very solid with Texas. There's been talk about, listening to Auburn, visiting Auburn. Ole Miss has been in the conversation. I think he mentioned Colorado at one point. But I think, as he gets back to Texas more, as he gets more and more comfortable, and, obviously Texas is on an upward trajectory, I think we're going to see his recruitment maybe kind of slow down a little bit and maybe him just focus on Texas. And he even said that when we talked to him on Saturday. It was, he's not fully shutting things down, but he said he was getting there. And so right now he only has an official visit scheduled to Texas that June 21st weekend. I wouldn't be shocked to see, that come and him decide just, that this is his choice and he's going to stick with it. So, he's very solid. He's still going to talk to some other teams. We'll see. But I think Texas is thrilled to have him. I don't think there's much concern about where he stands. And I think this weekend just solidified that even more.
Friend of the show, KJ Lacy, he was on this show a couple months ago discussing the fact that he was committed, but still hearing from other potential suitors. But I think as a commit, he's been working behind the scenes to get a lot of talent to join him down there in Austin. Who were some other prospects that made it inside the stadium for the spring game, Hank?
Yeah, one guy he mentioned was Nick Brooks, the big offensive tackle from Iowa he was talking to. But, it was a pretty loaded weekend. I think that April 6th weekend a few weeks back when they had a recruiting event was probably, I think, more star-studded. But, several big names were in attendance on Saturday. Guys like Kelshawn Johnson, the 4-star wide receiver from Hitchcock. A lot of this 2025 class at the wide receiver position, we mentioned DeCorian Moore, the LSU commit. We mentioned Jamie French, the Jacksonville, the 5-star wide receiver from Jacksonville. But Kelshawn Johnson is a kid that Texas has been pushing for. They're trying to get him to commit. He's kind of a one of those kind of athletes that you can do a lot of different things with. He's a very he's a playmaker, and you can see that on his highlights. What he can do with the ball in his hands. He plays basketball. He's a track guy. Can do a lot of different things, and Texas is very high on him. It's going to come down to Texas and USC for him, I believe. And there's been times where we've had him on commitment watch, but I think he's going to follow through, take some official visits in the summer, and go from there. Another big visitor on campus was Riley Pettijohn. Arguably Texas's top remaining linebacker target on the board after Elijah Bo Barnes committed a couple weeks back. He's one of these new age linebackers, can do a lot. Really athletic kid. You can see why on tape Texas is so high on him, and they've turned to McKinney High School, not only for him, but Xavier Filsimi in the 2024 class as well. But he was back on campus. I think Texas is in good shape for him. I put in a crystal ball pick for them, I think 2 or 3 months ago after his junior day visit. And, he's going to take some official visits as well. Florida State's pressing for him. His brother actually goes to Florida A&M. So, there's some Sunshine State ties there. Texas A&M is another school. USC and Ohio State are also trying to get Riley Pettijohn. But, he was another big name, and a guy that, visited this weekend but didn't actually go to the game because he had track. Was Duncanville quarterback Keelan Russell. He's committed to SMU, and we're talking about KJ Lacy a bunch, but he's a guy that Texas has remained in contact with, despite his commitment to SMU. Still showing a lot of interest in. Earlier this spring we were reporting, this might be a 2 quarterback class. You look in terms of kind of the post Quinn Ewers era. You imagine, which is what's going to happen this next offseason. You got Arch Manning, you got Trey Owens, and not counting the 2025 guys, those are your 2 scholarship quarterbacks. So it could be a situation where Texas needs to take 2 quarterbacks, and Keelan Russell is probably going to be the guy they pursue if they decide to go that route. Again, he came late on Saturday. The game was already over, but he spent late Saturday, part of Sunday on campus talking with the staff. He didn't leave with an offer, but I don't think that really soured, his liking of Texas. I think he's still very into the program. I think he really, when we've talked to him, he talks about how Texas is his dream school, and if he gets that Texas offer, it might change some things for him with SMU. So, he's going to be worth watching if he comes back for an official visit. I think he has one set to Ole Miss coming up. Alabama's picking up contact with him. Florida, I think the one thing we can all agree, he's probably not going to end up with SMU. No slight to the Mustangs program, but I think he's gonna probably go somewhere a little bit bigger. So we'll see if Texas gets involved there. But another good visit for him as well, despite not going to the game.
6 commitments for the Longhorns in this 2025 recruiting cycle, all 4 stars. That's good enough for 20th in the country right now nationally in the team recruiting rankings. Hank, there's so many different aspects now of Texas and their recruiting efforts heading into the SEC, coming off of an appearance in the college football playoff. Have you noticed a different approach from this staff and maybe pumping the brakes on potential commitments early on in the recruiting cycle?
Yeah, I think they obviously want to do their due diligence. And, Texas is one of the handful of programs in the country where, you're going to have more guys that want to come than you can take. And that's a good situation to be in. But at the same time, you do need to, you need to see them work out. You need to see them in the spring evaluation period that's coming up. We're seeing the coaches already hit the road. And, that's an opportunity they use to really kind of, narrow in on their board. And, there's always guys that, they're the take regardless. DeCorian Moore is a guy that they don't need to see him camp. they know what they have in DeCorian Moore, but I think they really like to utilize that spring evaluation, the June camps where they can see these guys live and get more information on this and get more context on kind of their overall athletic profile. Their film is one thing, but the big thing Sark's been talking about in the last 3 years is just putting in his culture in place and having the guys that are bought in. And so culture is just as important as their athletic profile, and that was brings me back to Keelan Russell. That was one thing. They know what he has in terms of talent. He's won 2 state championships at Duncanville and one of the toughest districts in the state, if not the toughest district. But he was saying they want to be around him in person and get to know him more as a person before they really start to pursue him. So I think that's been a big approach of Texas. Making sure they're doing their due diligence. Obviously, they have a great support staff, and like you said, they have coming off a playoff. Heading into the SEC, a lot of things are going their way. Even dating back to beating Alabama on the road. Ever since then, I think the country. I think a lot of kids have woken up to kind of what they're seeing what Texas used to be, and that's certainly helping them on the recruiting front.